Did you know that French Bulldogs, aka Frenchies, took over first place of the #1 dog breed in America and stole it right out of Labrador's paws? Yeah, French Bulldogs are now the most popular dog in the United States. And I, this summer, had 2 of them in my studio. And I really wanted to share that experience with you today. So what we're going to do is watch some behind the scenes of that whole session with me narrating how I did it, what equipment I used, what tricks we used, and of course, the final images. So let's dive in and take a peek behind the lens at this Frenchie photo session in the studio. So Lana is the gray and black dog that Matthew takes with him all the time to all of his real estate deals. And Evie, the little brown dog, is a dog they hadn't had for very long. They adopted her and she had just gotten over some medical issues and they thought she'd be a lot shyer, but she did really well. Now at these sessions, I typically start with the ottoman, and that's a nice comfy place for them. I try to get individuals and then together, which you'll see here. So we started with Evie just on her leash to kind of keep her out of the set for a little bit. The main part of this session was originally intended just for Solana, but Evie really loved to get on the action. So of course we included her. Here we've got them in these little ties, work ties, because he plans on using some of these images for his real estate business. I don't typically try to get treats out right away, but the owners really didn't think they would do anything for me without the treats. So we did get them out. One thing to really note about Frenchies is that they're brachycephalic, and that just is a fancy word for that squishy face. And so they do have a little bit more trouble breathing. And both of these are very young dogs, and I was constantly checking in with the owners, but I wanted to make sure they had pretty small treats. I always ask owners about treats anyways. Give them any kind of breaks that they might need. I don't have them do anything extra strenuous. We were inside in the air conditioning. They took them out for walks as needed, and we gave them water breaks as well. So one thing to really be cognizant of, especially on these little Frenchies, Bulldogs, and pugs, and even particular cat breeds with that squishy face, you want to really make sure that they're breathing well, they're not choking on anything, they're not too hot, they're not too active. There's a lot of things to keep in mind with these little pups. During all my sessions, I have a shot list in mind. I want to make sure I get both their good sides. So especially with little Solana here with different coloring on either side and patterns, I want to make sure I get both her sides. And I like to try sitting and standing, and she'll even do some laying down. Not all dogs will do laying down in the studio, but she does some. And I want to make sure I get quite a few of her looking at me because that's particularly what the owners wanted, but it's always really fun to get those looking up at the owner, so you can get quite a variety. And I do full body and close up, and I have a high enough megapixel camera that some of the full bodies can be cropped in if needed, but as you probably know, there's a whole different look when you crop in camera. I always encourage clients to be in some of the photos with their pups. I don't think Matthew was quite prepared, but I knew he wanted some for his real estate business. So we had the everybody gather on the ottoman. And one of the tricks I use sometimes, because I don't really love picking up other people's dogs too much myself, I don't want to stress them out, is to have them come in from behind the owner, whether they're sitting on an ottoman, on the ground, or standing, kind of making them always go in a circle, go in a circle. I call it resetting. So oftentimes we'll have to reset. A note about the equipment. I am using the Sony A1 camera with the 24 to 70 millimeter lens for most of the session. I do switch out for the 70 to 200 later on, which you'll see. I'm also using the Flashpoint Explorer 600 lights, two of those you can see with the bounce back umbrellas, and I'm controlling those with just the Flashpoint R2 controller. And behind me, for a lot of it, Bree has the dog sounds app to get the attention of the dogs. And sometimes I have her shake a the box of treats. So anything that we can do to get their attention as well. These dogs with all the extra kind of skin on their face and the bigger lips often get little drooly areas. So you can see the owner paying attention to that and wiping that off. It's actually pretty hard to edit out and it takes a lot of time, where it's much, much faster to just wipe her little face every once in a while. And you want to do that too with kind of long-haired dogs because little crumbs will stick in their hair. Now, a lot of times with multi-dog sessions, they like to stick together. So Evie's getting a lot of confidence around being around her sister Solana, so they're often in there together. You'll also notice that dogs often sit not looking right towards the camera. They often sit right in front of their owner with their back slightly towards you. So there's a lot of resetting. Now with two dogs, you just want to make sure they're not stacked one in front of the other. And just like I did on the ottoman, I want to repeat all of the different poses: sitting, standing, laying down, both good sides, and facing towards the camera, looking up at the owner here on the backdrop. So I'm going to repeat everything I did from the ottoman here on the backdrop. So each individual dog and the dogs together. Because the dogs were so happy about the treats, there were a lot of times when we did the individuals that one of the dogs would need to be held by someone or leashed. So that's what happened for a lot of it. While we were photographing individuals of one dog, they would be holding the other. One thing I didn't do as much of when I was a beginning photographer was the in-between images. When they're doing something extra cute or making a silly face or jumping around, I didn't always get those images before, and I really love to do those because a lot of people like to put them in an album or get a digital. They just really love that fun, friendly look that their dog is at that moment. It can be hard to get variety in a studio setting. A couple ways you can do that you've seen throughout this video is us changing all the posing surfaces. We went from the ottoman to just the floor to the chair. I have carpets I can bring in, and I could have changed out the backdrop. So you'll see that later on in the video when we do that. But that is a really great way to change things up. Dogs' body languages can change up on different surfaces. When they lay down, their paws can go over the edge. They can have their feet up on the arm. There's all kinds of ways to pose. Matthew came prepared with his real estate sign, and because Solana goes to all of his meetings, every one of his clients knows her, and so it was really fun to incorporate his real estate sign with her that he could use in his future marketing and advertising. All right, here we made two changes. I only had a small amount of the blue paper left. Oh no! And I ended up attaching it to the ottoman. The ottoman is behind the blue paper on its side, and we've just clipped it onto the fabric. The other thing we changed out was Bree stepped in instead of the owners. We thought maybe that the dogs would react differently to a different person. So that's what we're doing here. And you'll see in a moment that I changed into my longer lens. Because I have such a small space, I decided I needed to pull back so I can zoom in more and really fill the frame. Instead of taking those really wide angles with the 24-70 and having all that to edit later, just put on the 70 to 200. There was a lot going on in the building that day. It was a pretty full house of staff for my business and the other business in the building. So you may not be able to hear that we're doing a lot of noises from the phone app. We shake the treats. We're giving them constant praise and love. The owners are giving any commands like wait or sit, anything that their dogs are trained for. So there's all kinds of audio cues going on for the dogs in this situation too. Now you can see I'm sitting almost to the other end of my studio with my long lens so we can get both dogs on that tiny blue backdrop. And they're actually doing pretty good over there with Bree and Matthew. You can't see it here very well over my shoulder, but we brought his sign back in with just propped on the blue paper and had Solana sitting right next to the sign. And then the last one was Matthew had an idea to do the bus stop sign or bus bench sign pose with Solana, and it turned out really fun. All right. How did you like it? Did you like getting a sneak peek behind the scenes of a photo session in the studio with the US #1 dog? I tried to sprinkle in a lot of tips there for you. So if you have any questions of typing, type them in the comments below and consider subscribing to this channel if that is something that you like. For sure, for sure. All right, that's it for me today. As always, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATSs.